This is a Fox News alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. ISIS terrorists have brutally murdered a Jordanian pilot held hostage. They burned him alive. Jordan's King Abdullah is meeting at the White House with President Obama at this hour. The king met with Secretary of State John Kerry, as well as top lawmakers earlier in the day. We'll hear from one of those lawmakers shortly. Tonight, we are going to show you some of the images ISIS has put out from a long, slickly produced video. The images are brutal. They are graphic. They are upsetting. You may want to turn away. You may want to have the children leave the room right now. But the reason we're showing you this is to bring you the reality of Islamic terrorism and to label it as such. We feel you need to see it. So we will put up one of these images on your screen right now. This scene is the culmination of a 22-minute highly produced video where 26-year-old Jordanian pilot Muaz al-Kasabe is seen in a cage and then is burned alive in real time, engulfed in flames until he dies. As the video continues, a front loader dumps the rubble from nearby buildings on top of his charred body. The video states that the site of the brutal murder was the area near Raqqa, Syria, that the Jordanian pilot bombed before his plane went down in December. He was captured by ISIS after that. Okay, the picture is down. You can look back here if you turned away. Having seen the whole video, it is something you cannot unsee. Horrific and barbaric, as well as calculating and skilled at high-tech propaganda. A terrorist group that wants to go back to the 7th century by using 21st century tools, the internet and social media. As we mentioned, Jordan's King Abdullah was in the U.S. today, and he added a meeting with the president that's happening right now at this hour. The king said today, quote, "In these difficult moments, it is the duty of all Jordanian citizens to stand united to show the strength of this people in fighting this group. This will only give us more strength and resilience and resistance." So what more do we know, and what is next? Let's get details now from Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge. Another warning, there are some disturbing images in this report. Hello, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Brett. One of the most striking pieces of data today comes from a spokesman for the Jordanian Armed Forces, reporting the pilot was killed January 3rd, 10 days after his plane was shot down. That means the recent negotiations by ISIS to swap the pilot for an al-Qaeda prisoner were never serious or genuine. The father of the Jordanian pilot, Lieutenant Muaz al-Kasabe, overcome by grief after learning the news his son was dead, burned alive by ISIS terrorists. The Jordanian government was quick to confirm what it called an assassination, which would not go unanswered.
Whoever doubted the unity of Jordan will now be proved wrong. Whoever doubts Jordan's stern and lethal response will be proved wrong.
Mr. Obama condemned ISIS and yet another savage act.
I think we'll redouble the vigilance and determination on the part of a global coalition to make sure that they are degraded and ultimately defeated.
ISIS wanted to swap the pilot for this al-Qaeda suicide bomber in Jordanian custody. And tonight, multiple sources in the region report she has been moved from death row and will be executed by dawn. As crowds filled with anger and anguish swell the streets of the capital, Amman, Jordan, the Pentagon predicted the horrific act of burning a human being alive would work against ISIS.
I do think that this has the potential to backfire on them. I absolutely do believe that in the region.
The 22-minute propaganda video is a departure for the terror group. It is much longer than previous tapes and more highly produced, with special effects that give it a video game feel. There are overlays of video and sound using multiple camera angles, suggesting it took days to compile. The death of the Jordanian pilot and the promised retaliation by Amman without question increases the risk to the remaining hostages, which include at least one American.
The president has already ordered his team to devote all of the available resources that we have to trying to locate anybody, but particularly Americans, who are being held hostage by ISIL.
On Capitol Hill, the King of Jordan met with lawmakers during two previously scheduled meetings. Democrats and Republicans emphasized the need for U.S. leadership.
The barbaric tactics of our enemies have reached an incredible low with the burning alive of this Jordanian pilot. They are resolute in their determination to kill our allies and to kill us.
The apparent execution of the Jordanian soldier certainly underscores the brutality of the enemy that we're all facing, and underscores again why having a strategy to defeat ISIS is really important.
The cruelty of the Islamic State is well documented, but analysts say the new video and its extreme brutality are designed to further inflame tensions in Jordan and send a message to Gulf nations who are on the periphery of the U.S.-led coalition. Brett.
Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's get more insight on the reaction to this terrible act. Senate Foreign Relations Committee Chairman Bob Corker joins us tonight from Capitol Hill. Senator Corker is one of the few lawmakers to meet with King Abdullah from Jordan today. Senator, thanks for the time.
Brett, good to be with you.
Let me ask you first about that meeting, what the King said. It was obviously as this video had just come out. And what is he asking of the U.S.?
You know, he wasn't here asking the U.S. He was, as always, talking about what we need to do in the region. He is a great friend of the United States. He's been someone who's tried to bring the Arab community together against this. Obviously, what he showed was tremendous resolve, and there were questions about unity inside the country, and I think you just reported this. If anything, this act will greatly further unify the country against ISIS and these despicable acts that they're carrying out. So I think that the reaction is going to be one of greater resolve against what ISIS is doing in the region.
Does this, Senator, increase the need for an authorization of force against ISIS? And at what point does Congress just move forward with that before the administration moves forward with it?
So, Brad, I think something's coming forward soon. I really do think it's within the next week or two at the latest. And the fact is that, you know, this was being characterized as an authorization for the use of force in Iraq and Syria, but we now know that ISIS is in 8 other countries beyond that. So, you know, the fact is, I think there will be an AUMF. It will be one that I think the White House authors and sends over asking for an authorization, and hopefully it's something we will move through very quickly.
Jordan's in a unique position. Obviously, it is surrounded by the Islamic State, essentially. And the King, as you look at a map, I mean, it is a dangerous part of the world. Senator, is Jordan in serious trouble tonight?
So look, over the last couple of weeks there have been reporting of some of the tribes being concerned about what was happening. Look, Jordan is in the middle of all the trouble. They have tremendous amounts of refugees. I've been there twice to look at the numbers of refugees that they've taken in. Their water supplies are low. They have all kinds of issues to deal with internally, not to speak of this external issue. I don't think they're in trouble, but they're certainly a country that we need to support strongly, and there are little things that we can do to certainly expedite their ability to have the kind of military hardware that they need. They certainly are going to be taking it more so to ISIS certainly in the coming days and weeks, but they're an ally that is important to the region, that is constantly working with us and working with other countries in the region to solve problems, and we need to make sure that they stay healthy.
You know, Senator, this has been a long time coming. We've watched this again and again, and obviously this video may backfire on ISIS and unify Jordan, but it also may inflame the region even further. Is the U.S. doing enough? Could we be doing more to help?
Yeah, I think we could be doing more, and I think when the AUMF comes up, there'll be a great focus, Brett, on 2 words. One word is degrade, the other is destroy. And I think there's a concern right now that the United States is spending way too much time on the degrade part. In some ways, you might call it containment. And I think there's a concern that this spreads. The other thing that's going to be happening, Brett, while this certainly will unify Jordan, and hopefully unify some of the other countries in the region that are affected, what ISIS will be able to do because of what they just showed on what was just shown on your program and what they're showing on the internet, they're going to be able to recruit even more people from countries like our own, but other countries around the world. So their recruitment will probably go up. And secondly, they're going to be calling for people to take these kinds of acts, not exactly the one that was just shown, but terrorist acts people that cannot go to Syria, people that cannot go to the region, they will be calling upon them to carry out acts in countries like our own. So we have to be even more vigilant there, but we also have to be vigilant here. We need to make sure that our intelligence services and all those who protect our homeland have all the resources necessary to protect us while we're trying to deal with them in other areas.
Last thing, Senator, is there an overall strategy here for dealing with ISIS in Syria and Iraq? Is there a broad strategy, or do you think that this administration has left that?
So look, there's obviously more of a strategy in Iraq because there's more to work with. You have the Iraqi military, you have the Kurds, you have the Shia militias. There's a development of a National Guard proposal that's taking place. What we're missing in Syria, and what we've been saying from day one, is we don't have the ability to deal with the ground. The Syrian opposition, the Syrian rebels that we were to support and never really supported in the way we should, are being barrel bombed by the administration. And so we're actually losing them more quickly then we can train them in sites around the area. So what we're missing at the moment is an effective way of dealing with them on the ground. If you look at Kobani, most of our airstrikes took place in Kobani, and yet it took 4 months to move ISIS out of that area. So we've got to figure out a way. And let me say this, the Arab community, hopefully in watching this and seeing what is happening in their own area, they've got to be a part of that. It's got to be them on the ground, and certainly I think there are ways that we can extend and cause what's happening on the ground to be far more effective.
Senator, I assume you've seen the video or at least some of the images. Last thing, I mean, your personal reaction to seeing this?
To be candid, I have not seen it. I'm looking through this camera. You're showing it right now. I've been in meetings all day. As soon as I get back to my office, I will see it, but I've heard the physical description of what happened. It is not human. We are dealing with people that, as far as depravity, we're talking about the kind of things that happened back in 1945. And we, as a civilized world, have got to come together and deal with this. And one of the things, Brett, has got to be calling upon Islamic religious leaders to talk about how despicable this is and to take it on internally in their own communities.
Senator Corker, thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Up next, the political uproar over vaccinating your child. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 5 in San Diego, where a 28-year-old man has been convicted of running a so-called revenge porn site. Prosecutors say Kevin Bolart invited people to post nude pictures of their ex-lovers, then charged those people in the pictures to remove them. Fox 2 in St. Louis, where the demolition of a section of an old bridge damaged the new one. The destruction of the westbound side of the old chain of rocks Canal Bridge in nearby Granite City, Illinois, led to minor damage on the eastbound side. Officials say there was no structural damage. This is a live look at Boston from Fox 25. The big story there tonight, sub-zero wind chills on top of a heavy snowpack, making life pretty miserable for residents there. It's supposed to be a little warmer tomorrow. For the good news, a parade to honor the Super Bowl champion Patriots. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report on a busy night. We'll be right back.